Imagine waking up tomorrow morning, opening your banking app, and discovering that someone has deposited $10 million into your account. No lottery, no inheritance, no strings attached, just one message. The money is yours. What would happen next? Most people immediately imagine a better life. A beautiful home, a luxury car, vacations they've only dreamed about, freedom from bills, freedom from stress, freedom from work. But here's a question almost nobody asks. Would you still have that money 10 years from now? Or would it slowly disappear, one decision at a time? It sounds like an impossible question. After all, how could anyone lose $10 million? Yet history tells a different story. Professional athletes have earned fortunes, only to end up bankrupt. Lottery winners have received more money than most people could spend in a lifetime, only to lose almost everything within a few years. Successful entertainers, business owners, even highly educated professionals have watched enormous wealth quietly slip through their hands. If money alone created wealth, none of this should happen. So perhaps the real question isn't, how much money do people receive? Perhaps it's, what happens after they receive it? Because somewhere between earning money, keeping money, and growing money, something invisible takes control. Something that rarely appears in financial advice. Something that doesn't show up on your bank statement. Your beliefs. Long before you earned your first paycheck. Long before you paid your first bill. Long before you ever thought about investing. Your financial education had already begun. Not in a classroom. Not from a finance book. Not from an economics professor. But around the dinner table. Inside your home. Watching the adults around you. Perhaps you heard arguments whenever money was mentioned. Perhaps your parents whispered about unpaid bills after you went to bed. Maybe you heard phrases like, money doesn't grow on trees. We're just trying to survive. Rich people are greedy. People like us never become wealthy. Or maybe your parents modeled something completely different. They planned before they spent, saved before they celebrated, talked openly about goals instead of fears. You probably don't remember every conversation, but your brain does. Children don't simply learn words. They absorb emotions. Before they understand what money is, they learn how money feels. Safe, scary, powerful, dangerous, abundant, or never enough. And those emotional lessons often become lifelong financial habits. Meet Daniel. At 8 years old, Daniel receives a small weekly allowance. Before he spends any of it, his father places 3 jars on the kitchen table. One says spend, one says save, the third says invest. Daniel doesn't fully understand investing, but every week, one small coin goes into each jar. His father smiles and says, money is like a seed. If you eat every seed, you'll never grow a forest. Years later, Daniel no longer remembers every lesson, but he still remembers the feeling. Money was something to grow, not just something to spend. Now meet Michael. Michael also receives an allowance, but money feels different in his home. Whenever bills arrive, voices become louder. Stress fills the room. Conversations end with, we can't afford that. Maybe next month. Money is always a problem. No one teaches Michael how to invest. No one explains budgeting. No one intentionally gives him bad advice. But every month, his brain quietly records the same lesson. Money creates anxiety. Money disappears. Money is never enough. Without realizing it, both boys are building financial identities. Neither one chose them. Financial writer Morgan Housel once observed, doing well with money has little to do with how smart you are and a lot to do with how you behave. But behavior doesn't appear out of nowhere. Every habit, every financial decision, every risk we avoid, every purchase we justify is often connected to a story we've been telling ourselves for years. Stories about what money means, who deserves it, what wealthy people are like, and whether financial freedom is even possible for someone like us. That's why 2 people can earn exactly the same income, live in the same city, receive the same opportunities, and still end up living completely different financial lives. Because before money changes your life, Beliefs shape how you use money. Over the next few minutes, we're going to uncover where your financial beliefs really came from, why your childhood may still be controlling your adult financial decisions, how invisible money scripts quietly shape everything from spending to investing, and why rewriting those beliefs may be one of the most profitable investments you'll ever make. Because by the end of this documentary, you may discover that the greatest financial inheritance your parents ever gave you was never money. It was a story. And whether that story becomes your greatest asset or your greatest limitation depends on what you choose to believe next. At the end of the last chapter, we uncovered a surprising possibility that the greatest financial inheritance you ever received may not have been money at all. It may have been a story about what money means, who deserves it, and what kind of financial life is possible for someone like you. But that raises an important question. Where did that story begin? Most people assume they started learning about money when they got their first paycheck, or opened their first bank account, or paid their first bill. But psychologists have long understood something different. By the time most children learn multiplication, they're already forming beliefs about money. Not because someone sits them down to teach personal finance, but because children are always watching, always listening, always absorbing. A child notices the tension in a parent's voice long before understanding the electricity bill on the kitchen table. They notice excitement when payday arrives, silence when unexpected expenses appear, relief after paying off debt, fear before opening a bank statement. To a child, money isn't numbers, it's emotion. And emotion is one of the brain's most powerful teachers. Imagine two young boys walking into a grocery store. Daniel walks beside his mother. She checks prices carefully. She compares brands. Occasionally, she places an item back on the shelf, not because she can't afford it, but because she has a plan. As they leave the store, she smiles and says, "Just because we can buy something doesn't mean we should." For Daniel, money becomes connected to intentional choices. Now imagine Michael. He enters a different grocery store with his father. Halfway through shopping, his father's phone rings. A bill is overdue. The conversation becomes tense. Frustration fills the aisle. The shopping trip ends early. Driving home, his father mutters, "No matter how much money I make, it's never enough." Michael doesn't understand interest rates, or inflation, or budgeting, but his brain remembers something else. Money equals stress. Years later, neither man remembers those exact shopping trips, but both continue living the lessons they quietly absorbed. Researchers who study financial behavior often describe these invisible beliefs as money scripts, mental stories that quietly guide our financial decisions, usually without us realizing it. Some people grow up believing money provides security. Others believe money creates conflict. Some believe wealth brings opportunity. Others believe wealth changes people for the worse. These beliefs become invisible filters. Every financial decision passes through them. Without questioning the filter, we simply believe we're making rational choices. Psychologist Carol Dweck became well known for her work on mindset. She found that many of our beliefs about ourselves become deeply rooted early in life. While her research focused largely on learning and achievement, the same principle helps explain financial behavior. If someone grows up believing people like us never become wealthy, that belief quietly shapes future decisions. They hesitate to invest, avoid taking calculated risks, feel uncomfortable earning more, or subconsciously sabotage opportunities that don't match the identity they've accepted. Not because they're incapable, because the opportunity conflicts with the story they believe about themselves. The brain prefers consistency, even when consistency keeps us stuck. Let's return to Daniel and Michael. Both graduate from university. Both begin successful careers. Both receive their first full-time paycheck. From the outside, their financial journeys look almost identical. But beneath the surface, different programs are already running. Daniel's first instinct is simple. How much should I save? Michael's first instinct feels equally natural. What can I finally afford? Neither decision feels emotional. Both feel logical, reasonable, normal. But logic isn't always leading the decision. Old beliefs are. One paycheck, two completely different conversations happening inside the mind. Financial writer Morgan Housel once wrote, "Your personal experiences with money make up maybe 0.0000001% of what's happened in the world, but maybe 80% of how you think the world works." Think about that for a moment. Your understanding of money may be based on a tiny collection of childhood experiences, not because they're universally true, but because they're personally unforgettable. If your family struggled, you may assume struggle is normal. If debt surrounded your childhood, debt may feel ordinary. If no one invested, investing may feel dangerous. Your experiences become your evidence, even when they represent only a small fraction of reality. This helps explain one of the greatest financial mysteries: why intelligent people often make predictable money mistakes. Knowledge alone rarely changes behavior, because behavior follows belief, and beliefs formed through years of emotion cannot be replaced by a single budgeting app, or one motivational speech, or even one financial book. Real change begins somewhere deeper, with a willingness to question the stories you've always accepted as truth. So before asking, "How can I earn more money?" perhaps a better question is, "What do I actually believe about money?" Because the answer to that question may explain far more about your financial future than your salary ever will. But our minds don't simply hold these beliefs. They defend them, even when those beliefs hurt us. And that's where the next invisible trap begins. The financial scripts you never consciously chose. At the end of the last chapter, we discovered that your financial life may be following a story, written long before you ever earned your first paycheck. But here's where the mystery becomes even deeper. If those stories are invisible, how do they continue controlling us? The answer is surprisingly simple. The human brain doesn't like uncertainty. It prefers familiar patterns, even when those patterns create painful results. Imagine walking through a forest every single day. At first, there is no path, but after weeks, the grass begins to flatten. Months later, a clear trail appears. Eventually, you stop looking for another route. You simply follow the path you've always taken. Your brain works the same way. Every repeated thought, every emotional experience, every belief you've reinforced over the years creates a mental pathway. The more often you travel that path, the more automatic it becomes, until one day, you mistake the familiar path for the only path. This is why psychologists often describe the subconscious mind as an autopilot. Not because it controls everything, but because it quietly handles thousands of decisions without asking for permission. Think about tying your shoes, driving to work, typing your password. You don't consciously analyze every movement. Your brain has already built the pattern. Financial behavior often works the same way. Some people automatically save. Others automatically spend. Some automatically compare prices. Others automatically justify purchases. None of these reactions feel unusual because they've become normal, not necessarily correct, just familiar. Let's return to Daniel. A few years into his career, he receives his first meaningful raise. His friends immediately begin celebrating. One upgrades to a luxury apartment. Another finances a brand new SUV. Someone jokes, "You've finally made it." Daniel smiles. He celebrates too. But the next morning, he opens his investment account. Most of his raise quietly disappears into index funds. No applause. No social media post. No one notices. To his friends, nothing has changed. but Daniel's future has. Michael receives the same opportunity, the same raise, the same excitement, but a different script begins playing inside his mind. You've worked hard. You deserve something nicer. Successful people don't drive old cars. People will expect more from you now. Notice something important. None of these thoughts sound irresponsible. In fact, most of them sound completely reasonable. That's exactly why financial scripts are so powerful. They rarely announce themselves. They disguise themselves as common sense. Behavioral psychologist Daniel Kahneman spent decades studying how human beings make decisions. One of his most influential ideas is that our brains operate using two different modes of thinking. One is fast, automatic, emotional. The other is slower, deliberate, analytical. Most daily financial decisions happen in that first system. Not because we're careless, but because the brain is trying to conserve energy. When Michael walks past an expensive watch, his emotional brain responds before his logical brain joins the conversation. When Daniel receives a raise, his financial habits also activate automatically. Both men believe they're making objective decisions. In reality, their subconscious is speaking first. Now, imagine someone who grew up hearing this sentence over and over. Rich people are selfish. As an adult, they may admire successful entrepreneurs, read books about investing, dream about financial freedom. Yet every time an opportunity to build wealth appears, something feels uncomfortable. Deep inside, success begins to conflict with identity. Without realizing it, the mind starts protecting the old belief. Not because it wants poverty, because it wants consistency. Psychologists call this confirmation bias, the tendency to notice information that supports existing beliefs, while ignoring information that challenges them. If you believe wealthy people are dishonest, you'll quickly remember every financial scandal, but you'll overlook generous entrepreneurs, responsible business owners, and investors quietly improving their communities. Your brain isn't searching for truth. It's searching for agreement. Charlie Munger once observed, "The human mind is a lot like the human egg. When one sperm gets in, it shuts down so the next one can't get in." His point wasn't about biology. It was about belief. Once we become emotionally attached to an idea, our minds naturally resist replacing it, even when better evidence appears. Money beliefs behave exactly the same way. They become protected, defended, repeated, passed from one generation to the next. This explains why two people can read the exact same financial book, attend the same seminar, watch the same documentary, and leave with completely different results. Information doesn't enter an empty mind. It enters a mind already filled with beliefs. One person hears, "Invest for the future," and thinks, "That makes sense." Another hears the exact same sentence and thinks, "That sounds risky." The advice didn't change. The script interpreting it did. Perhaps that's why changing your financial life feels so difficult. You're not simply changing habits. You're challenging a version of yourself that's been developing for decades. And the brain doesn't surrender old identities easily. It protects them, questions them, even fights for them. But once you recognize the script, you gain something incredibly powerful, a choice, because a script can only control you, as long as you don't realize you're reading from it. So, if invisible beliefs shape our financial decisions, what happens when those beliefs become part of who we believe we are? The answer takes us even deeper into the relationship between identity and money. Because before people build wealth or lose it, they almost always become the kind of person who believes they will. At the end of the last chapter, we discovered that many of our financial decisions are guided by invisible scripts. Scripts we didn't consciously choose. Scripts that quietly influence how we spend, how we save, and how we respond to opportunity. But that leaves us with an even more important question. If we know these beliefs exist, why is changing them so difficult? Why do people promise themselves they'll save more next month, only to repeat the same habits? Why do intelligent people understand how investing works, yet never begin? Why do some people escape debt, only to fall back into it a few years later? The answer isn't a lack of knowledge. It's something much deeper. Identity. Imagine meeting two people who both decide to run a marathon. The first person says, "I'm trying to become a runner." The second says, "I'm a runner." At first, their actions may look identical. They both wake up early. They both train. They both buy running shoes. But when challenges appear, their responses begin to separate. The first person skips a workout and thinks, "Maybe running just isn't for me." The second skips a workout and thinks, "Runners miss days sometimes. I'll train tomorrow." The behavior is the same. The identity is different. And identity almost always wins. Money works the same way. Someone who believes, "I'm terrible with money," will unconsciously look for evidence that confirms it. A missed payment becomes proof. An impulse purchase becomes proof. A failed investment becomes proof. Every mistake strengthens the identity. Eventually, they stop trying to improve, not because they can't, because their identity tells them improvement isn't who they are. Daniel and Michael are now in their mid-30s. Both have stable careers. Both have received multiple promotions. Both have experienced financial setbacks. But their responses couldn't be more different. When a market declines, Daniel feels uncomfortable, but he continues investing. He reminds himself that temporary declines have always been part of long-term investing. His behavior follows his identity. He sees himself as someone building wealth over decades, not someone chasing quick wins. Michael experiences the same downturn. Immediately, fear takes control. He sells investments at a loss, moves everything into cash, promises himself he'll invest again when the economy feels safer. Months become years. The opportunity quietly passes. Neither man can predict the future, but one is making decisions from conviction. The other is making decisions from fear. Psychologist James Clear writes, "Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become." Think about that for a moment. Every dollar saved, every unnecessary purchase avoided, every investment made, every financial book read, isn't just changing your bank account. It's strengthening an identity. The question isn't simply, "What am I doing?" It's, "Who am I becoming?" Because once your identity changes, your habits begin protecting it. Behavioral economists have also discovered something fascinating. People don't experience gains and losses equally. Losing $100 usually feels more painful than gaining $100 feels rewarding. This tendency, known as loss aversion, helps explain why so many people hesitate to invest. The possibility of losing money feels emotionally larger than the possibility of building wealth. It's one reason fear often wins. Not because fear is rational, because fear is immediate. Daniel understands this. He doesn't enjoy seeing his investments decline. No one does. But he also understands that temporary discomfort is often the price of long-term growth. Michael experiences the same discomfort, but instead of viewing it as part of the journey, he views it as proof that investing was a mistake. The same event, two completely different interpretations, two completely different futures. Charlie Munger often reminded investors that understanding human psychology is one of the greatest competitive advantages anyone can have. Because markets rise and fall, economies expand and contract, but human emotions remain remarkably consistent. Fear, greed, impatience, overconfidence. These emotions have influenced financial decisions for generations. The people who learn to recognize them are often the ones who make better decisions when everyone else is reacting emotionally. There's another trap our brains quietly create: emotional spending. Think about the last time you had an unusually stressful week. Perhaps you bought something you hadn't planned to buy, ordered expensive takeout, booked a trip, upgraded a phone, not because you needed it, because for a brief moment, it felt like relief. Retail therapy isn't really about shopping. It's about emotion. The purchase becomes a temporary escape, but when the excitement fades, the financial reality remains. That's why solving emotional spending rarely begins with a budget. It begins with understanding the emotion the purchase was trying to satisfy. As Daniel grows older, his financial confidence doesn't come from earning the highest salary. It comes from trusting the habits he's built over time. Michael continues believing that the next raise, the next promotion, or the next financial breakthrough will finally make him feel secure. But security built on income alone is fragile. Security built on identity is far more durable. Because when your identity changes, your decisions change. And when your decisions change, your future begins changing with them. Perhaps that's the greatest lesson of all. We don't repeatedly make the same financial mistakes because we lack intelligence. We repeat them because the brain prefers familiar identities over unfamiliar possibilities. The good news is that identities are not permanent. They can be challenged, strengthened, and rewritten. But before we can rewrite them, we must first confront one of the most powerful beliefs of all, the belief that there's never enough. Because hidden beneath countless financial decisions lies a mindset that quietly shapes everything. Scarcity. And understanding it may change the way you see money forever. When we ended the last chapter, we uncovered a powerful truth. Our financial lives are shaped not only by what we do, but by who we believe we are. Yet, even after changing our habits, another invisible force can quietly hold us back. A force that whispers, there's never enough. Not enough money. Not enough time. Not enough opportunity. Not enough security. Psychologists call this a scarcity mindset, and it can influence your financial decisions long before your bank account ever does. Imagine two people standing before the exact same opportunity. Both have stable jobs. Both have saved some money. Both discover the chance to invest in a diversified portfolio for the long term. The first person asks, what could this become in 10 years? The second asks, what if I lose everything? The investment hasn't changed. The opportunity hasn't changed. Only the lens through which it is viewed. That lens often determines the decision. Scarcity isn't simply about having little money. Some of the wealthiest people in the world still think from scarcity. Always afraid of losing. Always comparing. Always believing the next achievement will finally bring peace. Abundance isn't the size of your bank account. It's the confidence that your future isn't built on fear alone. Let's return to Daniel and Michael. Both receive an unexpected bonus at work. Daniel pauses before spending $1. He asks himself, how can this money create more opportunities? Part goes into investments. Part strengthens his emergency fund. A small portion celebrates the moment. The money is given a purpose. Michael asks a different question. What can I finally buy? Within weeks, the bonus has disappeared. A luxury weekend, new gadgets, furniture upgrades. Nothing was irresponsible by itself. But together, the opportunity quietly vanished. Months later, both men remember receiving the bonus. Only one continues benefiting from it. Behavioral economist Richard Thaler helped demonstrate that people don't always make financial decisions logically. We mentally separate money into different categories. A tax refund feels like extra money. A bonus feels easier to spend than a paycheck. Casino winnings often feel different from money earned through work. Yet every dollar has the same value. The labels exist only in our minds. When we stop seeing money as a tool and start seeing it as permission, we often make choices our future selves wouldn't have made. Scarcity also changes how we think about time. People living in constant financial pressure are often forced to focus on today's problem. The overdue bill, the rent, the repair, the next paycheck. When survival dominates attention, planning becomes difficult. This isn't a character flaw. It's a psychological response. The challenge begins when that survival mindset continues. Even after circumstances improve, someone may earn twice as much as they did 5 years ago. Yet still make decisions driven by fear rather than purpose. The income changed. The mindset didn't. Thomas Stanley, whose research on everyday millionaires challenged many popular assumptions about wealth, found that many financially successful people lived far below what they could afford. Not because they disliked nice things, but because they valued independence more than appearance. To them, every unnecessary expense carried a hidden cost. Not just the money spent today, but the investment growth that money could have produced tomorrow. They understood something easy to overlook. Every dollar has two possible futures. It can purchase a moment, or it can help purchase freedom. Sometimes it can do both. But too often, we sacrifice years of future opportunity for minutes of present satisfaction. Imagine planting two identical trees. One is watered consistently, protected through difficult seasons, allowed to grow slowly. The other is cut down every spring, just as it begins to mature. Years later, one provides shade, fruit, and strength. The other never becomes what it was capable of becoming. Money works in much the same way. Compounding rewards patience. But patience requires resisting the temptation to consume every new resource immediately. Daniel begins noticing something unexpected. As his investments slowly grow, his anxiety begins shrinking. Not because he's suddenly wealthy, but because he knows every month his future becomes a little stronger. Michael experiences the opposite. His income continues rising. Yet, so do his obligations. Larger payments, more subscriptions, greater expectations. His salary grows, but so does the amount of income already promised to yesterday's decisions. From the outside, both appear successful. Inside, only one feels increasingly free. Warren Buffett has often emphasized that time is one of the greatest advantages an investor possesses. The extraordinary results people admire rarely happen overnight. They are built through years of disciplined decisions repeated again and again. Scarcity tells us we must have everything now. Wisdom reminds us that the greatest rewards often belong to those willing to wait. Perhaps that's the hidden cost of scarcity thinking. It doesn't simply convince us that we have too little. It convinces us to trade tomorrow's possibilities for today's comfort. And those trades, repeated hundreds of times over a lifetime, quietly determine the distance between financial pressure and financial freedom. But if scarcity is learned, can it be replaced? Can someone rewrite years of limiting beliefs and build an entirely different financial future? The answer is yes. And it begins with something far more powerful than a new budget, a new identity in action. By now, we've uncovered a difficult truth. Your financial life is shaped by more than your income, more than your education, and even more than your intelligence. It's shaped by the stories you believe, the habits you repeat, and the identity you've built over time. But here's the question that matters most. If those beliefs were learned, can they be changed? The answer is yes. Not overnight, not with a single motivational speech, not by reading one investing book, but through a process that has transformed countless lives. Because while your past may explain your financial habits, it does not have to define your financial future. Imagine an old house standing at the edge of a quiet neighborhood. From the outside, it appears solid, but hidden behind the walls, the wiring is decades old. Every time a switch is flipped, the lights flicker. Replacing the light bulbs doesn't solve the problem. Painting the walls doesn't solve the problem. Even expensive furniture changes nothing. The issue isn't what you see, it's the system underneath. Our financial lives often work the same way. Many people try to change their results without changing the beliefs producing those results. They focus on earning more instead of thinking differently, spending differently, choosing differently. Let's return to Daniel. His success wasn't built on one brilliant investment or one extraordinary opportunity. It was built on hundreds of ordinary decisions. When he received a raise, he didn't ask, "What can I buy?" He asked, "What can I own?" When friends upgraded their lifestyles, he upgraded his investments. When markets declined, he didn't panic. He reminded himself why he invested in the first place. His confidence wasn't based on predicting the future. It was based on trusting his process. Michael's journey began to change in a different way. One evening, he sat alone, reviewing years of bank statements. Promotion after promotion, raise after raise. Yet the feeling of financial pressure never disappeared. For the first time, he stopped asking, "Why isn't this enough?" and started asking, "What am I repeating?" That question changed everything. Because awareness is where transformation begins. You cannot rewrite a story until you realize you're living inside one. Author James Clear writes, "You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems." Most people set financial goals. I want to save more. I want to invest. I want to become financially free. Goals create direction, but systems create progress. A person who saves automatically every month will usually outperform someone who relies only on motivation. Because motivation comes and goes, systems continue working, even on difficult days. Changing your financial identity begins with small evidence. Not dramatic change, small proof. Imagine someone who has always believed, "I'm bad with money." Instead of trying to become a perfect investor overnight, they begin with one simple habit, setting aside a small amount every payday. It isn't the amount that matters most. It's the message. Every time they keep that promise, their brain receives new evidence. Maybe I'm someone who plans ahead. A week becomes a month. A month becomes a year. Eventually, the habit no longer feels forced. It feels natural. Identity has begun to shift. Carol Dweck's research on mindset reminds us that people who believe growth is possible respond differently to setbacks. They don't see failure as proof they should stop. They see it as feedback. Money works the same way. A poor investment doesn't mean you're incapable of investing. An unexpected expense doesn't mean budgeting is useless. A financial mistake doesn't define your future. It becomes a lesson if you're willing to learn from it. Michael slowly began changing the questions he asked himself. Instead of, "Can I afford this?" he asked, "What will this cost me 5 years from now?" Instead of, "How much did I earn this month?" he asked, "How much did I keep?" Instead of chasing the appearance of success, he began pursuing ownership, not because anyone demanded it, because his definition of wealth had changed. Warren Buffett has often emphasized that the best investment you can make is in yourself. That investment isn't limited to education. It's found in developing patience, improving judgment, strengthening discipline, learning to delay gratification, building the emotional resilience to make wise decisions when others are reacting emotionally. These qualities rarely make headlines, but over decades, they quietly shape extraordinary financial outcomes. There's another lesson many people overlook. Rewriting your financial identity doesn't require pretending to be someone else. It requires becoming more intentional about who you're already capable of becoming. Every budget is a vote. Every investment is a vote. Every unnecessary purchase you resist. Every book you read. Every skill you develop. Every dollar you choose to let grow instead of disappear is a vote for your future self. One vote may seem insignificant, but thousands of votes, cast consistently over years, can transform an ordinary financial life into an extraordinary one. Daniel and Michael still earn good incomes. They still face uncertainty, unexpected expenses, economic downturns. Life hasn't become perfect. The difference is no longer found in their salaries. It's found in their mindset. One sees money as something to impress others. The other sees money as something to create choices. One depends entirely on today's paycheck. The other steadily builds tomorrow's freedom. That difference, repeated year after year, changes everything. Perhaps financial freedom doesn't begin the day you become rich. Perhaps it begins the day you stop allowing old beliefs to make new decisions. The day you replace fear with understanding, consumption with ownership, reaction with intention. Because the greatest investment you'll ever make isn't in the stock market. It isn't in real estate. It isn't in a business. It's in becoming the kind of person who consistently makes decisions their future self will thank them for. And when enough of those decisions accumulate, wealth becomes less of a destination and more of a natural consequence. In our final chapter, we'll return to the question that opened this documentary. What's the greatest financial inheritance you will leave behind? Because the answer has very little to do with money. When this documentary began, we asked you to imagine receiving $10 million overnight. At first, it seemed like a question about money. But after everything we've uncovered, we now know it was never really about money at all. Because money doesn't make decisions. People do. And people make those decisions through the beliefs they carry, the habits they repeat, and the identities they choose to build. Think back to Daniel and Michael. They started life with different experiences, different emotional lessons, different financial stories. Neither story was written by them. As children, they simply inherited what they observed. One inherited the belief that money could become a tool. The other inherited the belief that money was something to fear, or something to spend before it disappeared. For years, those invisible beliefs quietly shaped visible results. But here's the most important discovery of all. Neither man was trapped forever. The moment Michael began questioning his assumptions, his future began changing. Not because his salary increased, not because he found a secret investment, but because he stopped allowing yesterday's beliefs to control tomorrow's decisions. Morgan Housel reminds us that success with money depends more on behavior than intelligence. That idea echoes throughout everything we've explored. Financial freedom isn't reserved for the smartest people or the highest earners. It's often built by ordinary people, making consistently thoughtful decisions over an extraordinary length of time. Small choices, repeated patiently, compounding quietly, until one day, the results appear almost invisible to everyone else. Then suddenly, they become impossible to ignore. Imagine standing at a crossroads. One road feels familiar. It asks nothing new of you. It repeats the same habits, the same excuses, the same financial story. The other road feels uncertain. It asks you to question old beliefs, to delay gratification, to invest in your future, to choose ownership over appearance. The first road is comfortable today. The second creates freedom tomorrow. Every financial decision you make moves you one step farther down one of those roads. Warren Buffett has often said that someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. The same principle applies to your financial life. The freedom you hope to enjoy years from now will be created by the decisions you begin making today. Not all at once. One habit, one investment, one belief, one choice at a time. So perhaps the greatest financial inheritance you'll ever receive or leave behind isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in the beliefs that shape how those dollars are used. Because children don't just inherit money. They inherit examples. They inherit attitudes. They inherit the stories they watch adults live every single day. The question is no longer, what story was I given? The question is, what story will I continue? And perhaps more importantly, what story will I pass on? Because the future of your finances may begin long before your next paycheck. It begins with the next belief you choose to keep, or the next one you choose to rewrite. Thank you for watching. And remember, the most valuable investment you'll ever make isn't becoming the person your future wealth requires.